Shalom Aleichem and welcome everyone. What a pleasure we have today to be here with you and to review the Parashah for the special lessons and the stories that come with them as we prepare this week for Shabbat Parashat, the second Parashah in Sefer Shemot, Parashat Va'era. In this week's Parsha, we know we're going to start the Makot. We're going to start the plagues. In Parshat Va'era, we start the plagues that Hashem brings towards the Egyptians, and for the Jews to see, and for the Egyptians to learn from. And before it all starts, Moshe Rabbeinu comes with Aharon in front of Paro, and they tell him, you have to let the Jewish people out. And Moshe Rabbeinu, to show that he's speaking for Hashem, performs what the Egyptians thought was a magic trick. He takes his staff, his stick, and he throws it on the ground, and it becomes into a snake. The Gemara Masechet Menachot on 85a tells us, Paro's magicians tell Moshe, are you seeking to bring cement to a place filled with cement? They see Moshe Rabbeinu and Aharon. They take the stick, they make it into a snake. And the Egyptians say to Moshe and Aharon, are you trying to bring a cement to a place that's filled with cement? So the Gemara says, Moshe answers and says to them, no, I'm bringing vegetables to a vegetable market. So this whole Gemara is very hard to understand. He's saying you're bringing cement to where we have cement. And Moshe says, no, I'm bringing vegetables to the vegetable market. The Shita Mekubetzet explains that there's actually a profound exchange that is going on in these words between the Egyptians and Moshe Rabbeinu. When the Egyptians see Moshe Rabbeinu throwing the stick onto the ground and it turns into a snake, they think it's just another magic trick. In Egypt, there were a lot of sorcerers, a lot of wizards, a lot of magicians. And they thought it's their magic. Just like their magic was simply, you could think it was illusions or was koach hatumah, but it wasn't reality. It was a trick. So they tell Moshe Rabbeinu, what are you bringing cement to a place that already has cement? It's like bringing coal to Newcastle. Newcastle's full of coal. You don't need to bring coal there. And a person brings it there. Why? What do you bring? What are you showing us? You're not impressing us with what you're doing. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, no, I'm not bringing cement to a place full of cement. I'm bringing vegetables to the vegetable market. Vegetables are all different. There's not the same vegetable over and over again. They're different vegetables. And they all come to the vegetable market. But Moshe Rabbeinu was saying more profoundly enough. He's saying, what I'm doing is not a magic trick. It's reality. HaKadosh Baruch Hu turned my stick into a real snake, not just an illusion, not just a parlor trick, but an actual reality. We see that when we were making the makkah of blood, the Egyptians, they also took water that was still water and they turned it into blood. But when they did it, all the fish survived. But when Moshe and Aharon turned the water into blood, all the fishes died. All the fishes that were in that water that turned into blood, they all died. Because it wasn't a magic trick. It wasn't food coloring. The kids make, for the 10 ma'akot on Pesach, they want to show, they make food coloring into the water. An dam. This is blood. No, but yeah, that's an illusion. It sure looks like it. But Moshe Rabbeinu, when he made the makot, it was real makot. They were reality. They weren't tricks. It really was happening. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu was telling them. You guys are magicians. You're shams. You lies, jokes, illusions, tricks. But I'm talking to you about reality, the truth, authenticity. You have to accept the truth. And they didn't want to. They kept thinking that he was a better magician. And they wouldn't want to give in. And that's why they go through makkah after makkah after makkah. To get it that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing it. And then that's why they say the finger and the hand of Hashem. They finally realize that it's not tricks. It's reality. Now this confusion or unable to distinguish between tricks, illusions, and reality, unfortunately, still happen today. We know that Torah gives us 613 mitzvot. We have Torah Sheba'al Peh and Torah Shebichtav. We have the written Torah and the oral Torah. And the Chachamim over the generations have brought the tradition, the teachings, the lessons from Har Sinai, from Moshe Rabbeinu, from generation to generation, teaching us how to live our lives like a real Jew. But what happens over the years? There are new groups and new people who get up and say, Has Shalom, that this mitzvah is no longer needed, and this commandment is no longer warranted, or this is outdated, or this is no longer needed. And they tell you, that's too hard, so it's okay to do on Shabbat, and this is too not important. And they take their religion and they cut off sides of it, and they're thinking that they're still Jewish, and they're thinking that they're keeping the Torah and Mitzvot, and they're thinking that they're righteous people. They're all confused. They don't know what they are doing. When we took the Torah, we said, Na'aseh v'nishma. We're going to listen. We're going to do all the mitzvahs, and we're going to figure out how to do them. We're going to do them right. There's a story that's told. There was a Jew, a poor Jew, who lived in Chicago. And he was walking by the rich Jewish neighborhood, and he saw there was a very nice restaurant. And through the window, he saw the Jews sitting there. And the rich Jews were eating this most delicious cheese blintzes. He sees these delicious cheese blintzes. He wants them too. So he comes home and he tells his wife, Honey, I saw cheese blintzes today. I really want them. Is it possible maybe you can make it? And his wife, an Eshet Hayil, who wants to please her husband, an industrialist woman, she wants to help out. She says, you know what? We'll make it. And she goes and she takes the cookbook that she hasn't used in 30 years off the shelf, dusts it off, and looks for cheese blintzes, and she finds the page. She looks at the ingredients, and she tells her husband, listen, it says here that for cheese blintzes, we're going to need cream cheese. We don't have cream cheese. What to do? He says, listen, it's okay. Skip the cream cheese. It's all right. We'll eat a little bit cheeseless blintzes. At least have the blintzes. Make me the blintzes. She says, okay, we'll skip the cheese with cream cheese. We'll go next. He starts looking through the ingredients, and she sees that it asks for walnuts, raisins, and honey. She says, husband, we haven't had these ingredients in years. He says, just make the blintzes. Whatever you don't have, skip it. Let's just make the blintzes. It's not necessary to have all the ingredients. Just start baking. I've been starving for these cheese blintzes. So, whatever ingredients she had, she turned on the oven. She put her flour and water, rolled it into a blintz shape, and she put it into the oven. And she pulls it out, and it's just bread baked into a blintz shape. And she gives it to him. And he eats it. And he starts, And she says, no, how is it? And he says, the truth is, I don't know what those rich people are enjoying so much. It doesn't taste anything more than bread. This, Rabotai, are people who have a Torah, but it's watered down. And then they say, I don't feel it. I don't have excitement to it. I don't know what it's so special about it. You know why you don't feel what's special about it? You don't know why it's great about it? That's because all the greatness you left out. The cream cheese you left out. That's the Gemara. You left out the honey, the walnuts. That's the halacha. That's the way to live a life like a real Jew. You left it all out. If you're going to leave it all out, what you going to be left with? Nothing. This, Rabotai, was Moshe Rabbeinu's talk to the Egyptians. I'm bringing vegetables to the vegetable market. I'm bringing reality. I'm bringing the truth. And you're just showing us illusions and parlor tricks. And get to the pig. You have to understand that what I am is reality. And that's a lesson that we need to put into our lives as well. Let's move on to another very important lesson in this week's Parshat. We know that Moshe Rabbeinu tells Aharon, take the staff and hit the water, to turn the water into blood. And famously, everybody knows the reason is Moshe Rabbeinu had hakarat hatov. He recognized the good that the water did for him when he was a little baby and he was in the basket and he didn't die in the water and he was saved from there. He was pulled out from there. And so he wanted to recognize the good and be a person full of gratitude, so he wouldn't hit the water. So he told Aharon to do that. So the question that Harav Moshe Abuhatzera asks, if Moshe Rabbeinu had to show hakarat tov to the water, and even to the sand for the next Makkah, right? How come Moshe Rabbeinu didn't show hakarat tov to Paro? Paro, he was raised in Paro's house, in Paro's palace. So why didn't he show hakarat tov to Paro? He was talking mean to him. He brought all sorts of plagues to him. Why? Should have been nice to Paro, not do anything to him. So Harav Moshe Abuhatzera gives two answers. He says the first answer is, since Paro may believe he was a Melech Hadash, he was a new king who didn't remember what Yosef did for Egypt. So since he doesn't remember the good, we don't have to show him the good either. We have to remember what he did good. The second answer he gives is that since Paro was such a disgusting person, he was enslaving a whole nation, he lost the right to be grateful to him. And so we didn't have to be grateful to him. But it goes without saying that this midat of hakarat hatov, to recognize the good and appreciate it, is a very important Jewish trait. Right? There's a story that's told. Mr. Goldberg had heart palpitations. So he checked himself into the state-of-the-art hospital, a great medical facility. And he was there for a few days. And afterwards, he requested to be transferred to a tiny, little, dingy hospital a few blocks away. And when his friends come to visit him in this downgraded hospital, they tell him, what happened? Why'd you move from the state-of-the-art hospital and come to this small, little, run-down hospital? He says, whatever, I wanted to come here. They say, why? Were the doctors not good in the other hospital? He said, the doctors in the other hospital, they were geniuses. They said, the nurses, were the nurses' problem? What do they mean? What? He says, the nurses, they were angels in human form. They were great. He said, was the food wasn't good? He says, the food was absolutely delicious. So I had nothing to, so they said, so why did you move from there to here? He says, because there was nothing to complain about. I moved here, so I have something to complain about. Some people, it's very hard for them to show gratitude. It's rather very easy to find something to complain about. And if they can't complain about, they'll move somewhere else to find something to complain about. But that's not us. Moshe Rabbeinu teaches us we have to have hakarat hatov. We have to appreciate. But there's something more about appreciation. Sometimes we fail to recognize the gratitude that's done to us, something that's good to us. There was a man by the name of Reb Kalman. Reb Kalman was a lumber merchant. And he used to give a lot of money to tzedakah. And he was a very big person in the community. He helped a lot of people. And one night, a fire broke out in his warehouse. It's a lumber yard. You can just imagine. Everything was burnt. Everything was burnt to a crisp. Nothing was left. He turned into a pauper overnight. Overnight, he became the most poorest man in the city. Whatever money he had left, he tried to invest it into other startups, and nothing worked. So what does a religious Jew do when he's down on his luck and he needs to hear some chizuk, he needs to figure out what's going on in life? He went to his Rebbe, Harav Yitzchak Zelig Sokolov, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. And he goes to Rabbi Sokolov, and he tells the Rebbe, he says, Rebbe, why is this happening to me? I used to give tzedakah, I used to do so many good things. Why is Hashem doing this to me? And the Rebbe listened. And the Rebbe said to him, I want to tell you a Gemara in Mesechus Sanhedrin on Daf 92b. The Gemara says that after Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, conquered Jerusalem, he wanted to start to give shira, praise to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He wanted to sing a song to Hashem. So what happens? He was about to sing a song that would be greater than all of Sefer Tehillim. And as soon as a song came out of his mouth, Hashem sent an angel, a malach, to smack Nebuchadnezzar, to slap him on his mouth. And when Nebuchadnezzar got slapped, he stopped singing his song. He says, Rabbi Sokolov tells this Jew, he says, the Kotzker Rebbe asks, why did the angel smack Nebuchadnezzar? And Nebuchadnezzar is singing a song to Hashem, let him sing a song to Hashem. Anyone wants to sing a song to Hashem, let them sing. Why did the Malach come and hit him? Why stop him? And the Kotzker Rebbe said, the Malach didn't stop him. The Malach didn't slap him to stop him. You know why the Malach slapped him? It was a test. What was the test? David HaMelech, King David. If a person looks through the history of King David, he did not have an easy life. Not from the start and not to the end. His sons tried to kill him. His son tried to kill him. His sons killed each other. Another son tried to revolt and take the kingdom at the end of his life. And at the beginning, how his brothers shunned him. All these different things that happened to him, how his father wanted to kill him. And through all that period, King David wrote the book of Psalms. He wrote Tehillim. And he says songs that he says, I'm singing while I'm running away from my son who's trying to kill me. How do you sing when something bad is going on? But that was David HaMelech. Realizing that everything's from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He continues to sing even when things go bad. And so the Malach came and smacked Nebuchadnezzar on the face. He smacked him on his mouth. That was a challenge to Nebuchadnezzar. Will you continue to sing? Is your song greater than King David? But what happened? As soon as Nebuchadnezzar got slapped by an angel, he stopped his song. I'm upset. He got upset and he wasn't singing the praises of God, and therefore his song was never greater than the song of David HaMelech. And so Rabbi Sokolov looks at his Hasid and tells him, my dear student, in heaven they saw how you sang Shirah, how you praised Hashem, and how you did tzedakah while you had all that money. And now you don't have it. But what do you do now? Do you praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Do you continue to thank Hashem? Because if you do that, then you sang the greatest song ever. And if you sing like that, I'm certain HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give you all the greatness back. The Rebbe's warm and sincere words hit home. Reb Kalman realized that his difficulties that he was presently experiencing should neither negate his song nor prevent him from continuing to sing. And so he praised HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he went around and he was happy with Hashem, whatever he gave him. And eventually, his wealth returned to him. You know, the Tiferet Shlomo, Rabbi Shlomo Rabinowitz, says, you know why we were freed from Mitzrayim? The Pasuk tells us in this week's parasha, it says, Lechen emor l'bnei Yisrael, Hashem says, Moshe, tell the Jewish people, Ani Hashem, I'm Hashem, v'hotzeti etchem, I'm going to take you out, mitachat sivlot Mitzrayim, from the burden of Mitzrayim. But the word sivlot also could mean savlanut, which means patience. Tiferet Shlomo says, you know what it means? Hashem says, you know why I'm going to save you, Jews? Because you're not complaining. You were crying out for help, but you didn't say, why, Hashem, are you doing this to us? You took it with patience. You understood. One has to believe that Hashem, that in no matter in what situation, Hashem is doing everything for good. We don't see the whole gamut of history. We don't see all of it. We don't understand what happens today and tomorrow. But we believe. We don't complain. And like this, we were zocheh to Yetziat Mitzrayim. Every morning we Sephardim say it in Tefillah. Amonai melech, Amonai malach, Amonai melech le'olam va'ed. What does this mean? It means Hashem is king. Hashem was king, and Hashem will be king forever. What are we saying? The Ben Ish Chai explains that every time HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're going to praise you now, we're going to praise you for the past, and we're going to praise you for the future, because it's all from you, and ultimately it's all great. That's why this week's Parshat starts off. Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, I appeared to Avraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov with the name Kel Shadkai. But I never, Ushmi Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, I did not make it known to them. What is the name? Yud Kei Vav Kei. It really stands for Haya, Hoveh, V'yeh. Hashem was, is, and will be. Hashem is saying, I am here all the time. You have to believe in me now. Or what I did in the past, in the future, it's all for good. And when a person believes on that level, and he sings HaKadosh Baruch Hu's praises at all times, then he has sang the greatest song that can ever be sung. And that's how a person can have Hakarat HaTov for HaKadosh Baruch Hu at all times. We don't want to be like Nebuchadnezzar. We don't want to be lacking in praise for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rather, we want to understand how everything is from Hashem. The question now is, are we prepared to follow David HaMelech's lead? Or will we settle to be upset like Nebuchadnezzar? Or worse, like Paro, who has no Hakarat HaTov, forgets it, and enslaves a nation who allowed Egypt to survive. Rabotai, important lesson to take with us. For our final lesson in this week's Parashah, we have, when the Makot are happening, Aharon takes his stick, right, and he hits the water and it turns to blood. Now, between me and you, if you take a stick and hit the water, will it turn into blood? No, it won't. So Aharon was making a miracle. If he's already making a miracle, and Hashem is making the miracle can't happen without hitting the water. It has to be done through a stick. Why have to have a stick at all? The nest is a miracle from Hashem. I don't know who's not doing it. Hashem is doing it. So why do we need to go with a stick? The answer is, Rav Shalom Shadron says, just like it's crystal clear that no stick turns water into dam, so too it has to be crystal clear to us that any hishtaldut, any effort that we do for anything, never causes the outcome. A person thinks he goes to work and makes money, and that guy's making money. He's wrong. The same way a stick won't turn water into blood, your effort won't get you the money. It all comes from Hashem. People think, no, there's nature, there's teva, there's this. That's the way Hashem set up the world. But it really makes no difference. Hashem controls everything. Controls teva, he controls miracles, he controls everything comes from Hashem. So the reason why it's happening is not because of you. It's rather because it's from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Vashalom Shadron Zechasadik L'Bracha was once giving a drasha. And he said, La'atid Lavo, in the time of Mashiach, bread will be growing from trees. And one of the listeners couldn't believe it. He said, Rabbi, stop making up jokes, stop making up silly things. Bread doesn't grow on trees. Bread has to be baked in an oven. How could such a silly thing happen? And Rav Shalom Shadron tells him, tell me, Tzaddik, and fresh ripe bananas from a tree, that you do understand? That there's a banana in the peel and you open it and it's ready to eat. That you understand. Picture to yourself it was the exact opposite. Bananas you had to bake in an oven and bread would grow on the trees. And I would stand up and tell you, La'atid Lavo, bananas would grow on the tree. You would think I'm just as silly. But that's the whole idea. Don't look at it any differently. It's because you're used to seeing bananas on trees, you think it comes from trees, and you're used to seeing bread being baked in an oven, you think it comes from an oven. But no! It's nothing! It's all from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In the end of the day, it's all from Hashem. And you'll get used to that as well when it comes to Bimot HaMashiach. And to end off with one last story from Rav Shalom Shadron. there was a fellow named Tummel. Tummel thought he was a traffic conductor. And every morning, he put on his traffic conductor uniform, and he would go to a major highway that would enter the city, where they had traffic control. And there was a traffic light on the top. And he would stand under the traffic light, and with his flags would wave the traffic, red, green, this, that, he would do. And one day, his wife comes to visit him at work, and she sees the traffic lights. So she tells Tummel, "What are you doing? There's traffic lights. They're doing it. Why are you standing here?" He says to his wife, "Whatever the lights do, that's their business up there. My business is to do what I have to do down here. And my job is to use my flags to wave on the traffic. That's my job." No, her husband said that's the job, that's the job. And so he went for his job every single day in, day out, until one eventual day, one of the cars hit him. And they rushed him to the hospital. And he's in the hospital, he's screaming, "Oi, oi, oi." And they say, "What's the problem? What's the problem?" He says, "I have to get back to work. Imagine what's going to happen to all those cars. It's going to be accident after accident. I have to get there." And everyone tries to tell him, "Calm down, calm down. There's a traffic light there." And his wife says, "Yeah, you don't understand. The traffic light does its job, and he has to do his job. His job is to wave it." Everybody's laughing, right? Everybody thinks it's funny. Hashem Shadron said, there's a reality to the story. We live the exact same way. We wake up every morning, we rush, we work, we do, we think it's us. The fact that Kadosh Baruch Hu is in Shemayim conducting all our affairs. The fact that Kadosh Baruch Hu is sending us on our way and making us meet the right people and doing the right thing at the right time. We don't even think about that. We don't think Hashem's conducting the world. We think it's us. The traffic lights, which is the Mashal Hashem, he's conducting everything, and we think that we're down here and we're conducting it. We're exactly like this fellow Tummel. True, one needs to do some form of hishtaldut. I'm not saying you shouldn't do your effort. But in order to fulfill the real effort, is to understand that it all comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the real hishtaldut. It's you do your part, but you know who's really doing the part. That's what the real secret is. Rabotai, to quickly review the 3 lessons that we learned in this week's Parshat. We learned our first lesson, the importance and difference between illusions and reality, and how important it is to keep all the Torah, to live a real, authentic Torah life. And we talked about our second lesson, about having Hakarat HaTov all the time, understanding Hashem Melech, Hashem Melech, Hashem Yimloch Olam Va'ed, and that it's all great and it's always the best because it all comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And our third lesson is to understand there is no nature. Nature is Hashem. Hashem is nature, and everything in the world comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. With this, may we zocheh to Mashiach Tzidkeinu Rabbi Yomeinu Amen, and wishing everybody a Shabbat Shalom.